Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago family. We would like to welcome you back to your Lusical program on UNC USA. We have here Mr. Vetsi Ram, Mr. Suman Singh, Mr. Ken Dalchan, and Dr. Ashwin Maraj with us back again. And we uh, we have recently seen an article by Mr. Ken Ali, should be joining us tonight. I'm not sure, if he's run a little bit late, but the price fixing in the pharmaceutical industry in Trinidad and Tobago, where we seem to have a lot of issues with the pricing, the accountability of the drugs board, and there's a lot of things that we have concern about on the quality of drugs. So there's quite a bit our government has challenges in fixing. So, Wade, if you can give us a little insight on your perspective on that, as far as you see happening, the country and the things that our government has to deal with at this point going forward.
Yeah, I think there are a few major companies in the drug importation of drugs because we don't manufacture anything here. And over the years, there have been a consolidation of those larger companies. And I think as well, they probably uh, are agents for some of the major drugs traded on the global market. So it means to say government will be buying directly from them as well. And the question of such a structure in such a crucial industry, I think the government has to address it because they have no control on prices and for things very essential. But there are different ways to look at it, and I think government could invite Indian companies to set up the drug manufacturing facilities in Trinidad. What
Hmm.
I spoke to somebody who's familiar with the industry, and he said that the ingredients are very cheap, and it's a question of putting the ingredients together and producing the tablets and so on. And he said that can easily be done in Trinidad with the importation of raw materials from India, and you reduce the tablets to little or nothing. And I think that is something the government has to seriously think about, whether it could be under the program or assistance that Modi provided. That might be a good avenue to get something done and to break this monopoly because in Trinidad, I think, and you can see it, I mean, we are not a healthy nation, and you're looking at all kinds of diseases that are chronic diseases that are increasing. The hospitals are being overwhelmed. So the problem has to be tackled at both levels. One is prevention. Well, three levels. One is prevention. One is treatment, and the third is the supply of drugs at very reasonable prices. So hopefully, I think the Minister of Health, these ideas could be discussed with them, and it will be for the benefit of the citizens of Trinidad, and Tobago. Those are my thoughts on
Wade,
it.
my concern is right because I used to deal with a lot of people in the pharmaceutical business. Um, Here in the U.S. and they were one. The company was India based, and they make the drugs. And one of the scientists, me and him got into a conversation because I asked him. I said, um, I had some concerns in reference to my father because when he went back to Trinidad, uh, I find like his body got swollen. He gained an excessive amount of weight. I mean, more than usual. And realizing that he was using some of the pharmaceutical drugs in Trinidad, and he explained to me, he said that we were getting some kind of watered down product in comparison to the drugs coming to the US. There was two different kind of grade.
Mhm.
So Trinidad would get a certain grade, and the US will get a certain grade where they'll have to meet FDA level of specifications. We somehow in Trinidad does not have good enforcement on monitoring and the quality of drugs that we get. In fact, Dr. Buru, we saw recently had upgraded quite a bit of the drugs coming into the country
Hmm.
recently. Sumat, would know about that
Yeah.
because he him got into conversation with that. So while we're engaging, India, we want to make sure that there's a certain level and quality for people because some of these drugs can cause your body to gather water, and if you don't get and if you're on the wrong drug too, that could have that effect also. So I mean, everybody body chemistry is made up different. But go ahead,
Mm. Yeah,
gentlemen.
but you know, in the world's market for pharmaceutical, you get what you pay for. As uh, like if you want to buy a car, you have the option to buy a foreign use or a brand new car. And how do we know whether the government was buying foreign use cars or foreign use drugs or drugs on the lower end rather
Well,
than
yeah, yeah.
average or premium?
Our third world country, because we consider third world, somehow gets designated with because we don't have the checks and balances in place.
Correct,
You know.
correct. Like if most of my medication in the US is to come from Aurobindo drug, all was manufactured in India, distributed by Mount Sinai Hospital to me. You know, Aurobindo or another company, man. It starts with M. And
Who's that?
ready.
Merck you talking about?
No, not Merck is an American company,
Oh.
but Ready, Reddy,
That's Dr. Reddy.
Dr. Reddy,
That's the
and
India-based company based in the United States here.
yeah, and Aurobindo drugs. Um, yeah, these are the drugs given by Mount Sinai Hospital, and most of the insurance companies, that's what they get in. Now, the two new medication that Dr. Bodhi has recommended is a high blood pressure medication, which is very good, olesartan, and the heart drug Plavix, that is for both heart and stroke patients. So that's a good move. I mean, but again, the recommendations for these things have to come from the drug people, the food and chemistry, or whatever they call. And I recently had the experience because when I came down here, I bringing down medication, but instead of medication, I put drugs. And they said, well, you know what? The broker had to change that from drugs to medication because the drug people here, you have to drug. I think it's drugs and chemistry department is the people who will analyze each tablet or and the whatever the components and the formula and so on. So the broker had to change it because she said food and drugs will come down on you. You will not be able to carry that little past, three medication that you have. And th- these are some of the issues. So it has to be kind of integrated approach, well coordinated from suppliers and so on. But my understanding is that Costa Rica is the big transshipment point for a lot of Indian medication throughout the Caribbean and Central and South America. So that's a biggie there. So I don't know. It's a good idea for us to take over that role if we can.
I mean,
Get the Indian.
India is very capable. It's just that all I'm asking is that we have to pay attention and maybe get some help from the U.S. in far as their
Y-
Food and Drug Administration,
Yeah,
being that we're
exactly,
dealing with the U.S.
exactly.
to get
You
some
need to get that
support to
expertise.
put that kind of mechanism in
Yeah,
place
yeah.
where we have the proper monitoring of the pharmaceuticals coming into our country for quality. You know.
Mhm.
You're absolutely correct, Gary. It's just like Chinese steel, right? In
Yep.
the US, some of that Chinese steel would not be able to make it here, right?
Right.
Because although it could come in, but it's at the lower end of the spec. right? So in the third world countries, for example, the US here, we have certain standards, specifications, and testing and so forth for these materials,
Yeah,
right?
U.S. Customs will
Before,
be checking those material as they come in.
yeah, before it
Yeah.
could be before it could come in, to ensure that it's safe also. There's no sort of fumes like toys and stuff. Remember when there was an issue where there was a bunch of Chinese toys came in
Mm-hmm.
and they had an issue with
Mm-hmm.
some kind of fume that were getting people sick and stuff. Even
Mm-hmm.
I did when I was in grad school, I did a project a report on the Chinese drywall Gary, where they had to demolish a bunch of homes because the electrical was having the corrode and stuff. They brought in some Chinese drywall and they used it in Florida, right? And I don't know what type of recyclable material they used there and how this thing slipped in, right? Again, the home builders looking to cut costs. They're looking for everything cheap, right? And the homes that they built had to be demolished, and there was a massive lawsuit. So again, we have to be careful how we are importing things in Trinidad, and we have to have the right experts and expertise, right, to be able to evaluate and ensure that what's coming in meets first world grade or first world standards, right?
Correct.
Not that they
Yeah.
have a third world something for we in third world there, and they figure we just third world
Well,
people,
we know
right? We don't
we
matter.
told what countries. I mean, Trinidad might be in a better position, but a lot of poorer countries get certain things, even with sent to them that because they don't have like us, don't have the checks and balances in place to monitor quality.
You're correct,
Here we would
correct.
see U.S. Customs on the port. They would break open a container and start checking, and you don't know. I mean, I've seen that myself, many times. And they check for brand name matching and
It,
everything. If it's
it has,
actually the genuine product.
yep,
But
yep. It
as
has
I
to be a
was
certain grade.
saying, yeah, as I was saying, sometimes you get what you pay for, and these importers could very well be buying the lower end drugs.
Yeah,
So there are a number of factors that is at play there.
So I mean, we're looking for checks and balances.
yeah.
Like
We only
everything else.
you probably only doing checks, nobody doing the balances side of it.
And we want to ensure that these drugs are safe also, you
Hmm.
know, which is very,
And
very
people,
important.
you know, a while back, a lot of people were complaining about the quality of drugs in 2020 around there. I can recall they saying the cholesterol drug, the Simlo, and all these things were just not working. It was actually what's called the efficacy of the drugs was not up on par. So if you're taking a 20 milligram of Simlo, it's not equivalent to a 20 milligram of atorvastatin or any of the other statins they have. So on, you know,
I think we
this
need to check out those people who living out in the bush and living 100 and something years, and they're mixing up their own something, and we'll get some feedback from them too and test what their remedy was, right? Because some of them are outliving those who have the best quality of medication.
and
So they work very hard, and and you see them up there, um, still going strong and sharp, and you have to get a little feedback on there. We can't put a lot of we young people have a tendency to put down the old cultural things
yeah,
and things from your heritage there, and feel that you're doing better by going with the European or American society, but not realizing the quality of things you have there. So we should have some testing done on those bush medicine too. I mean, we have some educated people who qualify to do these things in lab. We need a lot of things done in the
well,
Caribbean.
India is also excellent in these sort of
Yeah, they're in the lead in the making the pharmaceuticals, so they would be
yeah,
good to help us.
But
yeah.
I saw an article a few years ago, and in Germany, they're propagating Ayurvedic medicine
Hmm.
for two reasons. They find it a lot cheaper to bring about results, and secondly, they find it very effective.
there's a holistic healing aspect of it, which they considered. I saw the article, I read that article. In
Mhm.
fact, they were offering a bachelor's degree in Ayurvedic medicine. They were saying that the it was a more holistic approach to health and wellness, rather than a plaster,
Mhm.
which
So
in the
let me
Western.
just see if I could help here a little bit because it seems as though you're moving away from the root of the problem into what the effects are. So we need to look back and notice our companies in Trinidad that import drugs on the whole. You see, if you buy a cheap drug and you sell it expensive, that is a problem. But if you buy a cheap drug and sell it cheap, that is less of a problem. So if, since we have the current government who could look into these things, and perhaps those people, I don't know who they are really, but those people who are the merchandisers who might be linked to maybe the previous regime and get away with these kinds of things, they must know that their days are numbered. We're not using a big stick, but a good investigation, like some of you mentioned in Ministry of Health. I would like to include other kinds of people in that, including maybe the Attorney General and the Auditor General, whoever again could look at the books and find out how much profit they're making. You see, because they've been making an exorbitant profit compared to other profit from other industries, then there is a problem. But if they're making normal profit like everybody else, then you may not have such a big problem. So we got to look at who these people are, the companies that do the importation, the merchandising companies. There should be a handful of them. It's easy to track them and see what they're doing. And therefore design policies. Some of you mentioned there are drugs that are, or people dependent for life and death. Those kinds you could control. The others, the homeopathic and all those things, I don't know. But those drugs that are life and death situations, those should be closely monitored. And if possible, I don't like talking about price controls, but perhaps that is something to look at, and price controlling those kinds of important drugs, because it is our people and we got to serve our people. And if that means to bring out some of the legalities to serve our people, that is what the role of government. You all know that I don't like government to interfere in all kinds of stuff because they're very inefficient. But some cases I would recommend strongly. So, and you all talk about India. And India has been spending a lot of investment R&D in these areas. So there was a time when America used to import from Canada half the price that it used to be in Canada. But nobody liked it because the pressure groups in here, the lobbyists in here on behalf of the drug company, just like I'm mentioning in Trinidad, where the lobbyists and them there would have been perhaps having some of those boys in the pockets and financing election is important for governments, and therefore these guys get away with a lot of stuff. So we got to look at it, and it's easy to find out how much profit they're making. Is that profit relative like everybody else, or is it abnormal profits they are making? And therefore, if that be the case, then definitely that is something they are really price gouging our people, and that should be not allowed to happen. I mean, we're asking this government to do so many things that last night I was thinking about, we want to get so much to do. And that is why I'm telling you all, I am strategic and long term. So we want them to do a lot of stuff, but we must space it out so the people would know this government come here to stay, and they come here to do things, and they're getting things done, and look that they will continue to get things done. So there is 15 years, like I mentioned last night. So yes, we have all this to do, but Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Joseph, and Maharaj must not be putting all these kinds of things in front of them. Give them a chance, and I think they're doing kind of well so far. But they're getting a lot of pushback in men. We spoke about that last night. They're getting a lot of pushback. You need to get on the ground and wrestle with them. You got to wrestle them down to the floor, and you got to look at the opposition. They have a lot of weight and a lot of influence. including those people you're talking about right now, which is the pharmaceutical industry. I don't know whether we have any Indian names who run in these pharmacies, but I guess they're getting the goods from those same 1%ers, whatever you want to call them in
Mhm.
Trinidad, the merchandising companies. So, and I bet you might know a little bit more than I do about those kinds of people who I'm talking about, but because I really haven't followed up to see who these people are and what company they come from, what they really do. But I know if they make an exorbitant profit, something is wrong here.
All right. If I may just put a scenario to the team. We all know who is Prestige Holdings, right? I
Yes,
happen to trade in the
Come on,
stock
check your
market.
mic.
I
We're getting
have
an echo.
a note,
yes, I know. Yes.
right? Prestige Holdings. No, they make abnormal profits in Trinidad. Trinidad is one of their key markets. No,
Suman, check your mic. Check your mic.
my mic is okay. I
It's
mean,
okay now. We were getting an echo before. Go ahead.
right. Prestige Holdings no longer trades because it's about to be bought over. I think the deadline was about the 18th of last month. By guess who? The biggest drug importer in Trinidad and Tobago, who imports hard drugs and diabetic drugs. So he's going to make money both sides. But the more people eating all this fried chicken and so on, you must get sick. And he's catering, he's on the both sides of the equation. You know? So look, tell me, Plavix is one of them. The diabetic drug is normal metformin and Diavan and whatnot. He's the main importer. I don't want to call his name because both of them trade in the stock market right now. So you can see, except Prestige Holding has stopped trading because they are to be acquired by this drug company. So check what's going on. That is very strategic. I mean, all know who they are. I mean, Prestige Holding is the 1%, the drug importers are the 1%. So you could form your own conclusion. But that is a sweet spot, as you say in business, that you make money on both ends of the spectrum. Once you're selling fried chicken and people must get sick and they must buy your medication at the end of the day. So that's a great business formula.
Well, you call that diversification, and negative correlation. So if one stock
Yes.
goes down, the other one
Yes.
automatically goes up. And that's it's common practice among large corporations. BlackRock is the same thing.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah. Big
they
time.
they fund the war machinery and then they set up construction companies to rebuild destroyed cities and so
Yep.
on. So
Yeah.
their fingers all over the tentacles are long and wide,
So you
and
see,
that is why you have a government to regulate all these things. That there's some even level playing field for other participants and other companies in their various industries.
right. And if I may just answer one or two things from Dr. Maharaj, what he best mentioned. Doc, I keep on saying, and unless you hear, you will see and experience things. All systems of governance in Trinidad and Tobago is broken. All. There's not one department that functions
Rotten,
as it should
corrupted.
function. Corrupted and deliberately so. I will say deliberately so over the past 10 years to give the PNM a free hand to do what
Mhm.
they have to do, all the corruption, so that at the end, there's no paper trail in something, no contracts on something, no signed contract. So these guys just go scot-free. It is deliberately done. Now, to go and reconstruct this economy or this nation, you got to look at each and every ministry, state corporation, statutory bodies, service commission, teaching service commission, every single thing, legal service, every single thing is broken. There's not one that functions the way it's supposed to
Mhm.
function. So give me an idea how long you think that will take place or come into fruition. Some of these things will not be done over the 5 years' time. Especially now, let me juxtapose, you have 128 projects, which is touted as the revitalization plan.
Yeah, as you move there against the mic, somehow you're getting an echo. I don't know what caused it, but
All right, okay there now?
yeah, go ahead.
All right. There's a revitalization plan on the pipeline. We have to bear in mind, before any project can take off, there are a number of things need to happen. You want to build a highway from somewhere to somewhere, you want to build a causeway, you want to build a building, you have to get environmental clearance, CEC. You know, you got to do your testing and so on and so on and so on. What about funding? What about employing? What about labor supply? What about the supply chain to get whatever materials you have to get out? So I'm beginning to wonder now, well, wait now, the government has to be really smart. I don't know if you call it, I'll call it something, but I don't know if that is mamagai to an extent, because none of these things have been put in place. There's no funding there. A lot of I'm seeing all of these rules and regulations and all these approvals and town and country and all these things have to be gotten. So when is it take off or the initiation, the start of these projects? So I saw none of these projects have a start date or an end date. So what's going to happen? Tell me what's going to happen when they don't have a start date, an end date. You know, and if you're doing 128 projects, if you start 10 of them this year, I mean, this fiscal, you start plenty. Because it ain't going to happen. It takes nearly 2 years to get this, certificate of environmental clearance. What about the soil test and so on, which you have to do? You know?
But Samad, if you look at the performance of the UNC under the last term,
Mhm.
2010 to 2015, if over the 5 years they constructed 106 new schools, I
Mhm.
think that's a phenomenal. That's over 20 schools per annum.
That is,
So
we'll stop
I'm
right there.
saying,
Yeah,
uh,
stop. Let me
till-
just interject right there. Yes, that is excellent. Like average of 20 schools per year, right? I was working in the ministry that time. I could tell you, but who knew about that at the end of the year? See, that comes back to the communications department. They were not listing out
yeah,
the
but
achievements,
yeah,
what they
the
were doing.
communications is a separate issue, right? Let's go under Pandey's administration. They were able to pull off the construction of the airport, which was
Mhm.
under planning for probably the last 20 or 30 years. So I think in terms of performance, they have learned the art to live within all the limitations and the restrictions. So I think once the projects and funding, the hardest thing is to get funding for these projects. But once that is
Mhm.
available, I think we could expect a lot of work to be done. I'll give you another very simple example. On the Sepero Road going into Lengua, there were two or three bad spots when you were coming, right? They have
Mhm.
repaired it. They have repaired it not up to um, uh, uh, let's say the best standard, but now at least you can drive. There's a two-lane there in those bad patches. So I think
Right.
let's cross fingers and hope for the best, and I think you will see results. We're already seeing results, and I think within I give them 1 year, and I think they'll have a good story to tell. The major concern is really the budget and the deficits and so on, which have been my concern for quite a while.
Yes, and to that you have to add that they have to be in the face of the population, of the the people. They have to know these things. Don't come at the end of 5 years and say we build 105 schools. That has lost traction,
That is that is true. That is
Yeah,
true.
you have to hit it, okay, like how right now they're doing the student laptop project. They went to Tobago yesterday. Okay, that should be in the news hitting in the face. 2,000 computers distributed in Tobago as of yesterday, and another set next week, and by December, by January, the 18,000 laptops would be there, and keep on hitting it. Use the government media to do this. What is TTT? That is supposed to be government. The same old, same old. No, nothing has changed. The same people will not, or will ensure that you will fail in your objection on your deliverables. So this is what I'm saying. You have to have your people in the right place to make sure get your communications and PR department as strong as possible to make sure that every week must be seen, Langua Road has been refurbished at the quarter mile to the half mile region or something like that. Let people see. Water has been now flowing in Barapur, for example. Let them see. And that is the type of information you need to get out. And PNM is excellent at that. Even when Israel go and they open my pipes and that is news. They will have a shed.
Look at your screen there, gentlemen. So, Suman, I'm getting that feedback from you again. Anyway, so look at your screen, and this is what we see happening that we didn't see too much happening under the previous government. All we was hearing about is dragon gas. But now you see several projects popping out, and the interest of foreign investment is coming right back in. I mean, and we've been about 7 months in government now, and I think we are making drastic progress with our natural resources, and we depend our high owner revenue resource, which is the oil and gas in industry. So I think Dr. Munilal is making some very strong headway there, and our government is attracting the right resources back into the country, which I think those projects that are being recommended, I think we could make some headway with it because things will pick up. I would say by next year, around this time, you will see some drastic, developments. But go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned Prestige. Is there another one? Like, do you know all of them, or you need some time to look to see which is which? Because that might be one, but there might be others, isn't it?
Wade could help us with that area. He might know a little bit more on that area.
You mean with regards to what's happening with
No,
Prestige?
the merchandising companies that do the drug importation. The big one.
I think Bryden is one, and I think one of the companies bought out the next one, so it is sort of consolidated in the industry. But if you look behind the scenes, you have to find out, as Suman said, they're operating on two sides of the fence. One with fast food, and the other one with drugs. So I think if you look at the common shareholders, they probably are the same people who are involved in those industries. And I think government has to look at it carefully. And to see whether that serves the national purpose or whether those industries should be broken up. I don't know if you recall the time when Enron went under. Then they looked at companies that, for example, the banks at the time. They looked at the banks and said, "Look, no more joint product offering for insurance and banking." I think with subsequent government that has changed, but there were good reasons for it. So to avoid monopolies, I think in Trinidad we have been willfully blind to those developments, but it needs to be opened up and discussed and decide in the best interest of Trinidad. How do we manage those sort of events?
Yes, because your interlocking directorates. I think there was a study done on this sometime in the past, how many of them sitting on each other boards in Trinidad, and those I call them the 1%ers company. I don't know what's the name, but the merchandising companies that have a historical link to Europe. That those are the people I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
Then-
if those people are in charge and those are the financiers for the other party, I think. So those are the people we need to take a look at. To not that we don't like the profit when they need to make profit, but again, this is, are we getting our money's worth? Is the bottom line of all of this. Our meaning as a people,
But Doc, you're so correct. I just got wind of events in Jamaica where leaching companies are in financial difficulties, and they are big investors in banks, in investment houses, in insurance companies. And when the threads start to unravel, we are looking at another Clipo.
That's right.
Clipo,
That's exactly right. Yeah. But Doc, if I may mention two other companies, the big drug importers. One is, we had mentioned Bryden, another one is Agostini.
yes.
Next one is Smith Robertson. They're right across the highway there in Essex Extension. All of them there. Right? Now, when they have the same guys sitting on their boards as well as the Republic Bank boards and the various big multinationals and so on, the big banks and insurance companies, what do you expect? I mean, you're right. They have to make money. Yeah, we all agree with that.
yes.
Yeah, but when they kind of shitty deals is what it is about. And that is my concern.
Adjust your mic there or something. I don't know.
You still getting feedback, Gary? Or
Yeah, it's like it's getting like a feedback. Are you on your laptop or your phone?
I'm a laptop. Should I switch?
For some reason, no. I mean, do you have a mic or something there that's hooked up to it?
Yeah. No, I have my. No.
You on the built-in mic?
I'm the mic which is on the
Laptop, the one that's built in.
the built-in.
I don't know for some reason why I get an echo. All right, go ahead now. Let me see.
Yeah. So what
Okay,
I'm
go ahead. I'm not
saying,
hearing it now. Somehow when you move, for some reason, the laptop move, it is getting an echo. But go ahead.
okay. Yeah, so this is a situation. You have people in different boards, in several boards, in industries that are all interwoven and are part of each other. Again, I don't despise them. If I'm on the board, I want my company to make money. That's fair enough. But when it reaches to a stage like this, people needs to be aware of what's happening. And again,
Where you go respond while Suman comes out and come back on your phone, Suman, and let's see what happens. Where you go
Yeah,
respond in the meantime.
well, gentlemen, this is a common problem. I don't know if you recall many years ago, Lenny Shape was forgiven about 11 or $12 million in loans.
30 million.
You remember that, right?
Yes.
What happens at the board, and you're correct, many of these movers and shakers, they have their representatives on the board. And if perchance they would have given their personal guarantees for certain loans, they want forgiveness for it. And they're driving the most expensive cars, living in the most luxurious homes. But they come to the banks and say, look, I gave you that guarantee in good times. Now that the company has failed, don't call on my personal guarantee. And that's a big problem in that they expect generous treatment and loan forgiveness. Now, when the bank forgive those loans, it's at the
Dr. Mark,
expense
it seems like
of
it's coming
the
from you.
shareholders, ordinary shareholders of the bank. So I think all of these things ought to stop. And it's left to bank managers to really ensure that there's equitable treatment to all customers, all clients.
Yeah, point taken, really.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just agreeing with Ray there. I mean, this monopolies are a difficult thing to break. These because sometimes governments depend on these things. In this case, drugs and pharmaceuticals. It will take time to break something like that, but you have to start somewhere. You just cannot allow this monopoly thing to fester on and on and on.
Right.
So when people look at it, they will say, "Wait, same old, continuing."
Yeah, and
Where,
you all mentioned something important a while ago, which I don't want. Last night, tonight, you all talking about drugs, so let's stick to that a little longer. Because you mentioned India in the same breath as India looking to go all over the world is a good time to engage them, and you all mentioned about um those monopolies in Trinidad or oligopolies in Trinidad. But when you're asking a country like India to come, they don't they talk about you talk about Costa Rica, and that is why when you say they move to Trinidad, you want them to come here, but Trinidad market is too small. So you're talking about zone of peace. Let's talk about zone of trade, man. I forget. Okay, I agree with your zone of peace. Let's go with the zone of peace. What about the more important zone of trade? You're buying everything from everywhere else and you're buying for one another in the Caribbean. So Trinidad must seize the opportunity.
Zone of peace there. Go ahead.
Trinidad must seize the opportunity. Like when those big companies come down, don't look at Port of Spain and San Fernando and the built up area. Trinidad is too small. Look at the Caribbean as your market, and even or even the Spanish speaking people as well. See whether we can come all over. So, but we could be the hub. We could be a big hub for many things. So think bigger whenever you're bringing them down. If really they want to have zone of friendship, that is a zone of market as I'm looking at. So I would you benefit from us, but you got to help us here. We want to have the market. We want to have control over a lot of stuff, and having the Indians or whoever again coming in and produce the own drugs, so we could keep those merchandising companies just to do what they're doing, which is just selling a corner, but don't import, please. You have too much corruption there. So when we look at Trinidad and we're asking these companies to come in, and they would know that. You don't have to tell them. They would know when they come here, hey, they will hit, we'll hit here. What about Grenada? What about up the islands? What about South America? What about, Trinidad's a nice place situated. Okay, go to Water Harbor, a deep water harbor. That could do a lot of stuff. That point leads us there. Could take a lot of big ships to come in there. Lots of containers. So, there are a lot of things going, but again, when I'm asking you all to do so many things, I just see I usually want to do, what's my next step? Because I want to get this thing off the ground. But then I'm asking this government, I don't know, you all there, you should know. If you shouldn't do a lot, but just do enough to keep yourself, to learn. And some women, last time we continued with the same thing today. The PR is a very important part because you work damn hard and and they wouldn't see it because they don't want to see it to start with. I think somebody mentioned the good news, hard to travel, bad news, quickly reaching in the internet and they run with it. This is a problem you have to deal with. And you have to handle. Last night also, in addition to what we mentioned, also mentioned about having people on the ground doing some of our PR work in the gutter, in the level, in the streets and in the hallways and everywhere. And I think Gary was mentioning last night also that we can have people on the ground there, whatever financing we're looking at in that regard as well. So all these things you mentioned, but we don't. Are you very, very consistent with what we talk about here and going forward? So I want to link back to what's our trend is, because I don't want us to only be a talk show, which is important also, but some kind of action has to happen after we finish talk. You agree with me right there? When my cement down there,
I agree with you 100%, Doc, because, if you don't do your PR when you do, let's say, a project, what happens after 5 years, they will say, yes, we built 105 schools, but in year 5 is the election year. And what happens in the election year? How do people think? They tend to gravitate among party lines, racial lines. They don't care at that time.
Yeah.
You know,
They make up, yeah, they make up the middle
also,
stream.
the
Yeah.
also beat the performance in the FI. In election year, Old
Yeah.
Talk always beat
Yeah,
performance
they win.
because they
Yeah.
have not exposed what they were doing. Nobody built as much things as UNC did in 2010 to 2015. Amount of police stations, health centers, jobs created, East-West corridor, that nursing complex, you know, the South campus, all these things. So many things were built, but how was that communicated to the public to show that we were doing things all along? They only started to put advertisements in year 5. And in year 5, that is to me too late. Who is paying him? Already paying him. Who is UNC? Already UNC, you know. And people tend to go up to these meetings just for the entertainment side because people have made up their minds on these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And Trinidad
that,
is
that-
always voting on racial lines. No, you can slice it how you want.
yeah.
You
And,
have
and,
to
and
have
last night,
something.
and last night again, because when I mentioned about the laws, Ben wasn't there, and he maybe didn't hear this part, but when we talked about the lost Trinidad decade, we were talking about that decade. And you remember what Prakash Ramada replied back with? And he says, the lost future. That's a good one. That's a good line. When he says the lost future, you look at it, because when he elected the PNM, that time is a lost there. And they were, that I said as a lost Trinidad decade. And he says it's a lost future. Which is another way of looking at the same coin from the other side. I never thought of that, but that was a brilliant rebuttal he gave me on that one. But really, your PR, you have side by side your PR, and you see that they're trying to put her in a corner just now with your prime minister, and they're trying to lick up with every little thing about this. They're making everything, politicizing every single thing, including including. You imagine you lose 649 people died. I don't know what year it was, and you still playing around with these things, and you hear that big. And that's another thing that came out last night again, because when I brought out the issue of how the Americans are looking at it, and he says, and this is what Prakash was saying. Never mind how we in America are looking at it. Think about how Trinidad will benefit. We don't care about why America is there. What is our benefit from America being there? This was a very, I don't know if you all picked up that point when he made that point.
Oh, yeah. We made that point last week with, I'm sorry, Dr. Maraj.
Yes.
All the benefits that Trinidad, that will accrue to Trinidad and Tobago because of the decisions
Right. Okay.
that the Prime Minister, made. Because what's going to happen with all our chemicals and fertilizers and natural gas and all these sort of things if America decides that they ain't going to buy?
Oh, no.
What is going to happen to tourism in the rest of the Caribbean if they say no, they don't have flights coming in? So you see, we are what we call price takers, as Wade will say. We are totally dependent on the actions of other people. And you dare not anger the people who supports you, who you export to, because all they have to do, and I think Wade will understand that, like what they did to India. Trump will say in the morning he got up and say, okay, 50% tax for everything coming in from India. You know what they did? India, China, Russia, they started to trade in their own currency. They dumped the US dollar. They dumped the US dollar, billions and billions and billions of dollars. They sold all their debt. US debt is being sold off at an alarming rate. Same thing as British debt. Being sold at an alarming rate. So Russia and India trades now in their local currencies, bypassing the US dollar. And that has Trump and them so upset. The Chinese yuan too is being traded like an international currency. So what is happening is that there's a whole total shift in the global markets around. And most of that is pertains to oil.
Third in the lead under China with in economic progress. I saw something last week. I think I had posted it. India is like third in line, but India is going very fast ahead with everything. You know, I mean, whether it's technology, well, they're leading in the
Mhm.
technology. Forget that. The industries. You know, they have some challenges right now with the pollution because of the amount of factories and things were not properly well regulated, and you know, and maybe they need to put some filters in the factories where they can reduce this emission. You know,
Carbon emission. Yeah.
yeah, so
What
that's something they
happened?
might have to work it. But India is unstoppable at this point.
And there's one simple reason for that. It has shifted and surpassed. It's the third largest economy in the world. It's the fastest growing economy. Imagine 8.2% per
Mhm.
annum. But the real strength of India lies in their population below 35 years of age.
Mhm.
There are 900 million people under the age of 35, very productive, very skilled, very knowledgeable in all areas of life, from medicine, engineering, you know, AI, technology, what have you. So that is, if someone don't want to buy the Indian products, hey, that market is so large itself that they all will be sold in India as it is,
Mhm.
you know. So
No, but
they don't
Suman,
depend
I
on
don't know if
the
you've been following, but India has strengthened their ties with the African countries,
big
and
time.
they're
They're the
making
biggest sponsor.
significant.
And you know what? They're not doing it as the Americans or the
No.
Europeans did. It's
So
win-win.
that racial cabal in the PNM should take note,
Yeah,
because Modi has is well embraced in Africa.
big time. And you know what? It's it's win-win for both sides.
For both sides, you're correct. You're correct.
And that is hurting the Americans and so on.
Mhm.
Even after last week now they had this big conference in South Africa. Just South Africa just decided to sell all the gold and diamonds to India instead of the
Mhm.
US. So they are seeing it where it's there South Africa is winning and India is benefiting as well.
Mhm.
So, you know, if the ornaments what is being sold now to Africa at a much reduced price, a lower quality, but at a lower price.
Mhm.
Hey, so what? So this corporation is what is hurting the US. This is the South to
And,
South
and
trade.
Wade, you guys know, and Ken here, and Dr. Maharaj, that everything here in the US is highly marked up.
Big time, boy.
I mean,
Yeah,
extremely marked
correct.
up. You know, some places it might be 500% or 1,000% compared
Gary,
to where they,
Wade,
for
during
manufacturing costs and stuff
the,
like that.
the cost of an iPhone, how much does it really cost?
Yeah, I mean, even the
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals, the
Probably a few
price is
dollars.
so much
Yes,
marked up.
an iPhone 16 costs
Yeah, a
$12 to
few dollars.
produce.
Yeah, amazing.
How
But
much
But
is
yeah,
sold, Gary?
what
How
we
much is
need,
your iPhone? Gary?
we need to get our act together in Trinidad and in the Caribbean in how we manage our affairs, and more look at long term than this short term of grab what you go grab, and it's me, myself, and I kind of attitude. The whole concept has to change, and people has to understand and really look at the bigger picture. And if we can do that, things will work best for all of us.
Yeah.
Um,
But okay, Ken, go
Gary,
on.
what about manufacturing? We need to, we talk about manufacturing here, inviting companies from India to manufacture drugs to be maybe look at China as a manufacturing hub for the Caribbean and Latin America, right?
Mhm.
Now, a liberated Venezuela, right, where democracy is restored there, which the US is trying to achieve right now, right? Now they have, I mean, the world's largest reserve of
That will
oil
work.
and
That will work
gas,
for us.
right?
That will be a big plus
Gary,
for us if things were to
Gary, here's
flow there.
something. If somehow, some way, we could connect, I mean, Trinidad is just in the shadow of Venezuela, right? 7 miles off the coast here. If there's some way we could build the infrastructure and work with the Venezuelans on their side to build a tunnel, transit
No, no,
tunnel,
no.
right?
We don't want to go to for security reasons. We don't want to, even though it's something that we don't want to go that route.
But it could be something to look at a feasibility later on, right? Because we
Yeah, I
now
thought of
have
it, but I
access to
dropped
Latin
the
America.
idea because I think it will be a risk for us.
Well, look, we have to think, you know, uh, about diversifying the economy and
Yeah, yeah. I
marketing
was looking at
Trinidad.
those 24-mile bridges the other day, and I was saying in my mind, but I mean, it's only 7 miles of Venezuela. But let me tell you
Well,
something.
look at the channel. Look at the channel from London to France,
France.
right? Yeah, that was a lovely project. It was built under the sea, and right now you have a tunnel boring machine, right? Under the sea, parked under the sea there. They took two tunnel boring machines, one from France and one from the British side, and they started
Hmm.
tunneling. When they came to the middle, right, one just went this way and the other came back out the next way. So one is parked under the English Channel there, you know. And now you could take a bus or a train and go straight to France and Europe, and you have access to everything. You can come back, you know. So yeah. So I think if we have a liberated Venezuela, right, and now look at it, you could also control what's coming in, right? If a truck of goods or merchandise is coming in, we pull it aside, we check it, we screen it, we X-ray it, etc. You know, um, I believe things will be much more regulated and structured, and it will open up more economic doors for
Yeah, you
trade.
can open up a big market. I mean, all the way to even even from the carcass end too, we could look at something there. But
Of
there
course.
right now there is too much risk, and I wouldn't go that way. I mean, at that point, carcass could use an airstrip. We could look into down the line there, but the whole concept about the making Trinidad a hub, especially along the Gulf, and then like we've been discussing. I mean, we must have been in and out of some of the conversation, But where you seen the videos, right? Where the proposal for developing the country, right? That they had recently brought forward. You saw this.
Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, our vibrant twin island nation, now emerging as a global logistical hub. We're unlocking new pathways, connecting us to the world, signaling that we are open for business. Today, we proudly unveil the revitalization blueprint designed to usher in a new era of opportunity. Join us now as we walk you through the key projects shaping this exciting new chapter. We begin our journey in the South capital, San Fernando, where transformation takes root and vision becomes reality. Node 1 ignites the revitalization blueprint with 39 catalytic projects, each one a bold step toward a thriving, reimagined Trinidad and Tobago. The key subnodes include Plaza San Carlos, the vibrant waterfront living district blending commercial and residential life, and the pioneering health city. Plaza San Carlos, a journey through time and taste. Step into the heart of heritage at Plaza San Carlos, a beautifully preserved historic market square that pulses with life. Now as the centerpiece of the repurposed historic district, Plaza San Carlos welcomes the arrival of the last train to San Fernando, a nostalgic tram that glides along the waterfront, offering visitors a scenic and symbolic ride through the soul of the city. This vibrant pedestrian haven is lined with charming colonnades and brims with local flavor, from cozy restaurants and artisanal food stalls to eclectic craft vendors and stylish boutiques. Plaza San Carlos, the soul of the South.
I met with sweet Dorothy. She said, tomorrow I'm joining in matrimony. And if you act
Nestled along the serene shoreline, the Waterfront Hotel offers a luxurious escape with breathtaking views, elegant accommodations, and world-class service. Whether you're here for business or leisure, it's the perfect blend of comfort and coastal charm. We honor our island's role as sanctuary to the majestic leatherback turtle. This cutting-edge convention center stands as a living tribute to global connections. The center welcomes international summits, corporate dialogues, and vibrant cultural exchanges, all under one roof.
I slide, and I may never be a bride. It is a BBDD.
Wake up to the aroma of breakfast favorites and vibrant local produce. The Alfresco Market is the place to be. From live performances under the stars to weekend yoga and family fun, this dynamic space is the heartbeat of entertainment and activity. Whether you're catching a concert or kicking back with friends, there's always something happening here. The redevelopment of San Fernando's waterfront marks a historic turning point for the city and the wider southern corridor. Transforming a neglected coastal town into southern Trinidad's civic heart, the project promises to catalyze growth in tourism, healthcare, and the cultural economy. This is a cultural and economic renaissance, one that finally grants San Fernando the grand maritime frontage it has long deserved.
So, I mean, that's just a little introduction, a reminder there. But, Ken and I also made some proposal that in reference to the causeway, I think you must have been a little bit part of the conversation too, that fits into that project, Wade. So we have a lot of potential going for us. It's a matter of, really working on it and moving it forward. And I think it's possible, very possible, should we able to really put things in perspective. And
That's true.
we have the interest of our investment that will come forward, but we have to deal with the crime. Definitely have to deal with the crime. In fact, I listened to the Minister of Trade today, where he went to North Carolina. Yeah, I'm hearing you're not, you're not fully, and I don't know. I'm basically hearing you. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with your thing, and after he, really posed his proposal and what could be done in the country, he was faced with one of the employees of one of the corporation being robbed in a home invasion in Trinidad, and and their reasons for not moving forward with investing in Trinidad. And so we have some serious reasons why we should really work on addressing the home invasion, the crime situation, and putting things and with all these bills that's been put in place into law and everything. We need a very reliable police force that's functioning efficiently. I mean, that will be, if we could get that will be the icing on the cake. In spite of everything going in place, if the police force is not functioning as we need it to be doing, it's defeating everything that we're trying to do.
That's right. Absolutely, Gary. And that's the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is that, again, none of these things has a start date and an end date. So we don't know whether it will be started in this 5-year term or in the next 5-year term. Because, this San Fernando redevelopment project, a lot hinges on the opening of the Point of Air refinery. I mean, you have to pay spots. And that ain't going to happen before the next 3 years, according to what the Minister of Energy said yesterday. So that is a year 4 of our tenure already, right? So how can we go about and attract businesses into Sando? That waterfront project is a nice plan. Exactly what it is a plan.
Well, we have to tell the idea. If you notice, our Minister of Works is in the Middle East, and I mean, who knows what she's discussing over there, and what she will be bringing back with her. I'm sure she's going to be bringing back more than yam, and so. But I mean, I have a lot of confidence in her ability. She's one of those persons who can get things done, and you see her hard working. So, and accompanied by a Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Legal Affairs, two brilliant young men, and I mean, we're making progress. I think we're on our way. It's just a matter of securing government in the next rounds so that we can fulfill those things. And the people has to be. This is where our team comes in, and the UNC team in Trinidad comes in, where the information, education, and where we go into, what's the plan of action has to be reiterated and being sold on the platform.
Yeah. You know,
Go
Gary,
ahead.
looking at the video, right? How we can identify that is the initial phase of the project, which is the conceptual phase, right? You have a concept, you have an idea, and a concept, and that is captured in a 3D render, right? Where you could do a fly through video of it, right? And you could actually see what it would look like, you know. So I think now we are that phase, and the ministers and everyone, they are now trying to now secure the financing, so we can start with the more detailed feasibility, the more final drawings, conceptual drawings, then we move to the final drawings and stuff like this, and then we start to build, right? So we are at a phase of our project, right, which is which is the early stage, more or less, phase, and that is the conceptual phase, right?
Right.
So while we're looking at the conceptual, other stuff is happening. As we can see, the Minister of Works and Infrastructure, they're making the rounds, right? Trying to secure the foreign investments and investors, right? And they will be marketing this concept also. Like I have a friend and a client, and he has a piece of property in Trinidad. And he said he wants to develop it. He wants to build a building, a commercial, you know, stuff. So I said, look, before you build that, right? He's going to do a soil test to determine type of foundation or type of building structure we could put on our site. So I said, look, once we get that done, what we will do, we'll do a concept, a conceptual 3D design. And you will take that now to your clients or your potential clients, right? And market that concept and see if they could buy into it and put a down payment, right? And that's how it's done. Sometimes you sell an entire project without breaking ground, you know, or spending a cent. So yeah, so we are the conceptual phase here, right? We've captured a concept, we have an idea based on a need or whatever, and that's what we're working with right now. Could it be built? Of course, right? But it requires money and financing.
Yeah. But again, it comes down to, as I keep on saying, you see that Pointe-a-Pitre refinery, that was the heart and soul of San Fernando. If that refinery fails to exist, San Fernando is a dead zone. Now you're talking about attracting conventions, businesses, and so on, but which company is going to come to do their convention in a city where, they don't have first an airport close by, there are multitude of traffic jams all around from PRQ. The people who go to conventions not like these.
But
Convention
you notice what
centers,
Kaka said last night. That Camden airport in Cuba there,
that should
was
be that
accommodated
should
to
be
the jets.
that
You know,
should be something well
all right.
thought
They
of.
don't have to
And
go through the regular process where the rich multi-billionaires just come in and out of the country without the hassle.
this is
Yeah,
what
that
this
will
is what
definitely
drives,
complement.
boy. Gary,
That will complement the project.
this is what drives development. When you have private entrepreneurs and big shots flying in private jets and so on, this is what will drive an economy. Don't tell me, okay, I want to have a medical conference and I want to bring in people from all over Europe and US to come to San Fernando to use that convention center. Look at the logistics. Look at the logistics. So unless that Pointe-a-Pitre refinery is started up and starts to, refine all and so on and get the money circulating in the country first, then and only then you can attract businesses to come and fill these rooms for you. Because unless, when the refinery closed, Marabella and San Fernando became ghost towns. Really ghost towns. So we have to be kind of careful that we looking at the video, it sounds nice, sounds good, everything that is well thought out, in my opinion, but the concept is good as well. But you have to, when you start to nail down to the hard facts, you begin to see. Now, convention centers and so on is near to transportation lines, airport, rail, road, good road network, and so on.
Well, that's why we have people like Ken involved.
Well, somebody post a phase one, you know, um, road infrastructure upgrade, right? And it could be expanded upon to a phase two, and even connect the larger network, right? But yet,
Mhm.
I hear
I
what you're
saw
saying
it.
with regards to upgrading the infrastructure to meet the needs. Because when you start to bring in people from all over the world and stuff, you will need a private airport to bring in people who are billionaires or who are CEOs of companies and so forth. So yeah, so Camden is a big plus. That will definitely complement, right, the whole development, right?
Well, we also
But
do have
also,
we do have an accommodation area there for private jets at Piaco, but
yeah, yeah,
Cuva will bring people out of the traffic and straight into Central, and it will be where the industrial ports are right there. And we also talk about expanding the ports along Central in the Gulf there from Felicity area
yeah,
that
yeah,
we are thinking of and recommending, and that's why we recommend the Causeway and
That's right.
the Causeway, the park and ride around the boat sanctuary, the ferry port, the tourist. Like I strongly believe in the tourist ship should come into Central area, not into Port of Spain.
definitely, definitely.
So definitely, along that Felicity area, Felicity Cuba area there, we could. Well, I know Cuba has the industrial port, so more towards Felicity, you could make an accommodation for the tourist ship to come in. So you don't have to beat the Port of Spain traffic now. You're coming straight into the midst of the country.
Now,
And
also, Gary,
and
sorry
the
to
other
cut.
part is from the Toco end, where we got to work on the Toco
Right,
end.
correct, correct. A ferry to Tobago, right?
Yeah,
And
and
also, when we look at
set up
the
that port there, that port area there too.
yeah, when we look at the ease of movement of moving mass traffic and flow and stuff, we're looking at a road that connects Manzanilla to Central, right? Cutting the island in half, going running straight across to where that girl up
Yeah.
lives
Beach. The beach.
in
The beach.
Beach, right? So there are road infrastructures there that we could expand upon, and connect, right? So it is doable, but we have to have the project financing to get it done.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And
But
what?
also,
Uh-huh.
sorry, with a big large scale development project as what we're rolling out here, right? We will need to upgrade the infrastructure, right, to facilitate and compensate the new capacities or the new loads. For example, the road capacity. You know,
Mhm.
people. Somebody made a good point. People don't want to be coming from foreign countries and get stuck in traffic for 2 hours and deal with flooding and stuff, right? So we'll have to deal with all of these things as we move forward as a whole. So it'll be a holistic approach here. Yes, we have the conceptual designs, we have the project financing, we have those things that are happening, but on the ground, what we have, the existing infrastructure has to be upgraded, right? And we spoke about this also. We're addressing the flooding, we're addressing the traffic congestion, and also the crime, right? You can't have tourists coming out of cruise ships and getting robbed, and their gold chain being snatched and stuff in Independence Square there, right? We can't have that.
You
Yes.
know, everything is a matter of priority and
Mm-hmm.
the question of scarce resources. So we have to decide. Funds are not, which there are limitations to access to funds. If you look at our debt to GDP ratio, which is a common ratio people use, it's
Mm-hmm.
climbing all the time. It's climbing
Yes.
all the time. This year, within the budget, they didn't disclose it up front, but they said they're going to borrow $19 billion. So if within 1 year our debt, uh, total debt, that is government debt, not the country's debt, not the household debt, and so on, climbs to about 170, which is equivalent to our GDP. So where are we going to get the funds? And I think whatever investments we make, we have to be satisfied that it's feasible. Not
All
only
right.
Correct.
feasible, not
Correct.
only feasible, but it must be. We have to gauge it to determine, is it a plus for foreign exchange earnings, or is it a use of foreign exchange? So that's, whilst it could be feasibility in terms of TT dollars, is using foreign exchange. So we have to be very careful
All right.
to set up criteria for evaluating these projects?
Well,
No.
I think the cruise ship complex, expanded cruise ship complex, right? Right away, we're talking about foreign exchange coming in there. Tourists are coming
Not a
in with,
not a problem. Our problem, Ken. Our problem is not just bringing in foreign exchange. Our problem, and no, none of the economists, none of the country planners or anybody looked at our propensity to import. If our propensity to import is 100, whatever little foreign exchange come, it goes back out, and a few people will get access to it, and that's it. We have to address propensity to import. I'll give you one simple example. I looked at a schedule the other day, produced by one of the international agencies, in terms of dependency on food import for food consumption. We are 94% imports. 94%.
and we have to, that's something we have to deal with. And I believe they address that also to cut that by a couple $1 billion, right? But
Yeah.
that's a good point. But look on the screen here, not to deviate, right? I think what we're looking at that red box there, that's a ferry
Mhm.
terminal in Felicity. And it's connected to a causeway, right? And that is connected to an expanded road network throughout Central. And this
Yeah.
is the road I spoke about where we connect from somewhere Caparo over there, going straight across Londonville, going
Touch.
straight across to Manzanilla, picking up all those
Yes.
small towns
Mm-hmm.
Beach and Plumita and these small towns, right? So we'll see some revitalization happening along that alignment, right? And it will open up the country also. So from some central, you could run across to Manzanilla, go by Bodo and eat a roast fish and something there, and then be back central in less than an hour and a half, right?
Right. You have
But
to, Ken, you have to look at these things holistically, right? Let's say
Mm-hmm.
we go to Manzanilla, we enjoy a dinner and so on. It means to say we could have enjoyed a dinner in Central that they will be forfeited. So we have to look at this overall to see what impact any of these developments will have on the overall economy. But there's other low hanging fruits, for example, and I've been raising this point for the last 10 years once I start talking on the shows or medias and so on. Why do we have a Port of Spain is a massive cost center, massive cost center, and 400,000 persons going to work in Port of Spain. They produce nothing. They produce nothing. I said, what is it
Plus,
you make for the day? They produce nothing. All they do is shift ownership of assets and and bleed a good bit for their own pockets. So we have to be careful about what is our priority at this stage. Now,
most important.
infrastructural development is fine, and one of the big arguments is you put in a highway, plenty development along the highways, but go and see the highways that we have put in. There are no developments, manufacturing or anything at the sides of the highways. None. None.
well,
You do,
well,
you drive down to Point 14. There's nothing going on the side of the highway, but
Well,
that's one of the rationale for it.
that's because we came out of government. But if we had stayed in government, by now, it would have been something there. There would have been some development. So now this idea that me and Ken came up with and how to go about it, is that this will be facilitating the hub idea for the Gulf of Paria, and this will be a multifaceted, multi-purpose port area, because one side we will expand the industrial part from Point Lisas, and also what we have suggested, instead of the tourist ship going into the Port of Spain area, they come more lower down between Cuba and Felicity there, and then we have the bird sanctuary. We have the Guayma River where we can go straight up into the bird sanctuary area there, and then the causeway will be able to tap in. If the causeway is built along the Gulf as we proposing, then the causeway will be able to tap in into the Uriah Butler Highway there, and that way you see the diversions that Ken illustrated there with the
yeah,
yellow for the roads and the road, and now we have park and ride um, by Felicity there, where you can, you can get, leave your car. You could either visit the sanctuary, or take a bus into Port of Spain, in and out. And the way we propose the causeway is that if it comes along the side there, you could wrap it into the Beatum. You could go all the way up to the water park in Chagaramas. You could exit off, into Port of Spain higher up, so you bypass that Caranage traffic, coming along this line here, because you'll be able to jump on the causeway. So instead of coming to Caranage, all that traffic, you jump on the causeway.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
And yeah,
If
Gary,
I'm,
yeah, Sumad.
was this plan, this causeway plan is a very nice and achievable plan, but was it one of the 128 projects that Jolene John and they postulated? Anybody knows?
I don't know, but this is my discussion that I had with the Prime Minister when I was talking ideas, and
Mhm.
I asked Ken to help me materialize it so I can present it, uh, to her, because I reminded her recently, and this is why I asked Ken to put it together.
Okay.
And I sent it to her so she could see what we were talking about. This was also sent to Jolene, John, the Minister of Works. It was also sent to the
Neil
Minister of
Gostein.
Transport. It was also
Because
sent to
you
Neil,
know
Gostein, the
it
MP for Sugar West.
it all starts with money, as we will see.
Well, I mean, listen to me. We are working on the investors, and the main thing is within the few months, you see, we are tracking the interests. You already see that development taking place, which you didn't see happening under the previous government. The
Yeah,
things
yeah.
went dead, and so I have hopes, high hopes, because the fact that you're seeing the interest materialize, you're seeing the oil companies showing an interest, and you're hearing about things, wells that you never, all I was hearing about it last year is Dragon Gas. So the only one thing we could deal with was with Venezuela. Everything else got shut down. Everything became non-existent. So now you're
Correct.
seeing, hearing about new developments, new wells, new things coming up, revitalizing the things that they killed. So we have a lot of work to do. Yes, we have a lot of work to do, but the
Lot,
team very
a lot,
capable. They're very capable of doing it.
a lot
And
of work to
you
do.
know, also in Central has a lot of potential. There's a lot of open spaces in Central, open plots, open lands, open area, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about noise pollution and stuff, right? And trying to look at an alternate venue or venues to hold these cultural events or carnival fetes and so forth. And Gary, we spoke about that area between just south of Felicity there, coming back towards Cuba, between Cuba and Felicity. There's a lot of open space there, right? But we have to build the infrastructure, right, to facilitate the added capacity, the increased capacity to move traffic efficiently. But right now in Central Trinidad, and anybody who goes to Central, lives in Central, they would complain about traffic congestion. This plan, if we phase it out, would address or greatly impact the traffic congestion in Central Trinidad, right? I mean, peak hours, you try to get to what you may call it, the Price Mart on a Saturday evening, around movie time or something when a movie starts, or just people just going out for dinner and stuff. It's a headache, right? And that's just a 5 minutes or 10 minutes drive from Charlieville to just go across the highway right in Price Plaza and back. You know, so once we're going to build anything, we have to do that feasibility, and that ferry terminal will attract a lot of cars that are going to be increasing the capacity, right? So we don't want to have a gridlock or mixing the traffic that or the ferry traffic or the traffic that's using the facilities there, right, with the local traffic, or have that traffic diverted through these little towns. That's not going to work. We have to move it around, right, and away from the town. So yeah, so it would address the traffic congestion in Central. We will see more development. We could even propose a multi facet center to hold events, fetes, everything in Central, and everybody converge from the southern part of the island, the eastern part of the island, the western part, the northern part. Everybody converges there. in central Trinidad, right? Why do we have to go to Port of Spain in that gridlock, in that flood, area that floods when it drizzles? The whole place
You
floods
know,
there.
like one of the things I pushed very hard was the decentralization and the multi-purpose governmental business, which I saw in this
Mhm,
video.
mhm.
So I know that the Prime Minister took uh, into consideration what we were saying, because these are things where I suggested to her when they asked me to make a contribution to the manifesto. So I've seen some of that in that project, that development project there. So I have hopes that first of all, I recognize that they are paying attention to our, especially our Prime Minister is paying attention to what we're saying, and it has taken into consideration. So, but this causeway here, you just imagine you don't have to go through that normal channel into the traffic into the Beetham, and you could run up the side here within minutes and exit off, into Port of Spain. Um, you can go straight off. You avoid the
Exactly.
Karanjai traffic. You come out from the outskirts, in and out. You exit this ramp into the Beetham area here. Without having to, like I told Ken, stop it. You'll be able to ease your way straight into the
Correct.
traffic
Correct.
the way it is designed. Um,
It could be
uh,
expanded on.
yeah. Not only but it could be expanded on, but also how we exit the highway, the causeway, is that
Correct.
you don't come to a full stop. You wrap around and get
Oh, yeah, yeah,
into the
definitely,
flow of
definitely. You
traffic.
can't stop in the causeway there. Yeah, Gary. One
Yeah,
more
right.
important point, right? We have the army base in Chaguaramas there, and we just have one way, a road, west one road, a single
And
lane
this
each
way they
way.
could get quicker. They could get quicker to the southern part
They
of the
can
country, and
mobilize exactly, fast
yeah.
mobilization, right?
Um,
So it's
so
a strategic piece of infrastructure also when you think about it.
So, I mean, multifaceted, multi-purpose. This is a revenue-driven project, and definitely, something to be considered. Um, in other parts of the country, we could expand as they come along the southern range. But this was just for the sake of just accommodating the current funding. And then we will present other ideas to expand. I mean, this side of the country here, I mean, definitely has to be developed.
Definitely,
Also there's
definitely.
a lot of potential here on this end. And this end, we're proposing a causeway also because of the road always get washed out and you have to keep rebuilding all the time. So one of the things I recommended was building a lifted road, which is a causeway. At a certain point, then that way you can have access. You can have access to the people who are flooded out. We're gonna
Yeah,
while we're
yeah.
working on dealing with the flood, and you have access, so you're not limited. You're not cut off from accessing the people who is in distress. So this is something to look into. And obviously the boardwalk, like how I recommend about Seaside Heights area and stuff like that.
Like Atlantic City and stuff down there.
Mhm.
But yeah, look at that. You could get it on your vehicle from Central. Obviously, you live in somewhere in Lange Park or wherever somewhere there, right? And in a matter of 20 minutes, you in Manzilla by the beach, right? And that area it will open up for tourism also, right? If you don't want to go to Maracas, so Maracas is crowded, right? You have an alternate also to come down to Manzanilla, Mayaro, right? You open up the whole place there, right? We'll see a lot of businesses, spark a lot of business development, a lot of commercial activities and so forth, right? And this also could be a tourist attraction. You pull up with a ferry, sorry, a cruise ship, right in Central there, and we have the taxis waiting to ship you straight across to across the island to Manzanilla. We're eating a roast fish, you're relaxing, you're drinking a coconut and stuff like this. And then you head up to Toko, you can look at the turtles up there, right? And you're back. So
Yeah. You see,
moving traffic, moving the people around and efficiently moving traffic is very, very important. I don't want to
critical.
spend 2 hours going to Port of Spain each way. That's a lot of productive time there and a lot of stress. So I think a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago will appreciate this proposal, right, to expand the network, ease the traffic congestion, and spark development and commerce along the alignments and along open up certain areas that people don't even know about, right? In fact, I can't remember when last I ever ventured to Beach or this place Plumita or something like this, right? I don't know about these places because it is not accessible. It's very remote, as the girl said here. Um, Suma that girl from Beach here, she's a nurse in Canada,
Fazia.
right? Fazia. She said, Ken, sometime when it rains there, we definitely getting a tree falling across the road, and people have to take the cutlass and cut the tree and remove it and all this other stuff. That's like ancient civilization. These people are removed, right, from or isolated from the rest of the island. What if there's a medical emergency there, right? So all these things you have to think about and open up the island.
But
I think the project, this phase one, addresses all of that.
Ken, they closed down an entire school in Beach, and children suffered for 15 years. 15 years. Brand
That
new
should.
high school.
Well,
Huh?
I think Gary will agree with me. That's going to change, right? We can't be having people, some parts of the population living in ancient civilization or isolated
No,
because of poor infrastructure.
what this is when they say geographic
Look at your screen.
discrimination.
Look at the
This is
screen.
what
Look
Look
at
at what
the
Gary have here on the screen. This is the Atlantic City Boardwalk,
Mm-hmm.
right? Imagine we have something like this in the East Coast along,
Mayaro.
or even in Central,
Yeah.
or even Manzilla there, right?
I'm saying the Mayaro stretch, Manzanilla Mayaro stretch
Correct,
area.
correct.
Correct,
Right?
correct. And you
We will put
incorporated
that
with
place in the
the
map.
yep, and incorporated with the golf course and some nice hotels and cabanas and so on.
Correct.
So
Not everything has to be focused or concentrated in Port of Spain, right?
this is the problem.
This is what I was proposing, some years ago. But anyway, if we can do this, this is good investment.
Oh, an excellent investment, right? Excellent investment. You build hotels, you build Airbnbs. People will come, they want to stay, right? And it will spark commerce, it will spark development,
But
create jobs, employment, right? That will definitely create jobs.
but you see, what my biggest grouse is, and the grouse is genuine. Unless the ministers and the government themselves have buy-in into these projects, none of these things is going to take off. Trust me, I'm telling you, none of these things are going to take off unless the government has a vision, a clear plan. The idea is good. The idea to develop is good. Yeah, should be part of the tourism and trade ministry then. But you have one person or two persons who went and tried to get money, right? Jenny John and the Minister of Planning, Kennedy. Right? Saddam went as well. Now, the government has certain priorities. And who knows whether tourism is a priority rather than employment or the payment of the 10%, which is a priority. And they have to weigh these.
But you have to understand something. Not everything is being discussed in the public open domain right now. That you have to understand that. I mean, there are quite a bit of things that are in the possession of the Prime Minister that she will share as time comes by, when it's ready to be discussed.
I agree.
It's just like the national security issues here. There's not everything that she can tell you, and on all the drama that's taking place, it is not reasonable to be discussed right now. I mean, what she is doing in your best interest. So not everything will be unfolded directly. So there might be a lot of things happening that you don't know about.
But you see, this is a part of communication. Unless it pertains to national security, you have to get buy-in from the population.
Right.
You
Well,
have
I
to.
mean, it will. I expect it to be in due time.
No,
But
definitely. Look,
yes,
nobody wants to be sitting in traffic for 2 hours or hour and a
man,
half
My
when it's only a 10-minute drive.
my MP is complaining this morning. It
Yeah.
takes him 3.5 hours to get from Prizabad to town. That is 7 hours a day lost in traffic. 7 hours a day? You've got to
So
be
with that
joking, man.
causeway, he could jump in there in half an hour. He's in Port of Spain.
Why can't we have this thing in San Fernando or Cuba or Macaulay or, you
That's
know,
all like how the Prime Minister say, well, she can work from any
correct,
location.
correct.
Maybe we should have Parliament start to shift Parliament where it's going to be held instead of the
Why,
Red House.
if I'm working in the Ministry of Education, why do I have to reach to Richmond Street in Port of Spain and spend 7 hours to reach there? Huh? Why can't I walk out to San Fernando? In this
That's
age
why
when
we need to
everything,
decentralize.
big time, and Gary, we have
Right.
been saying the same thing. But when? The question is when. Yeah, we
I
said the
mean,
same thing in 2010.
our infrastructure is not prepared for that, Suman. We're going to take a few years to get there.
Yeah.
Gary,
But
but
we
we
get in
said
there.
the
We get in
same.
there. It's a
We
work in
said the same.
progress.
We said the same thing in 2010.
Yeah.
Because they had the Ministry of Agriculture in St. Clair Roundabout. I don't know if you guys know that after the
Yeah, I remember
the
that. Right by the roundabout there
Whitehall,
by
after
Savannah.
Whitehall,
Yeah. On the
Ministry of
left hand side.
on the left hand side there. Right? I used to work right before in Ministry of Education there in Alexander Street. Listen, Ministry of Agriculture in Port of Spain, and they don't grow one plant there. Where should that really be? Huh? Shouldn't that
Yeah.
be in a farming area, St. Joe,
Definitely.
East West,
Yeah.
something like um, South Arangua South or something like that, or coming down to Central,
Mhm.
or even down Pinalo, Davie, or something like that? Why you have it there? And the same goes for a lot of people. Most of the people who work in these ministries live south of the Caroni Bridge. They don't do the
Yeah.
statistics, but I will tell you about it. If they do the road, they try and put the markers across the road and check the vehicles going on, the times they go and come. You really realize a lot of people just going to town to kill time, collect a salary, and coming back. No, not much productive work. If that is the case, then say to the damn people that they're horror and do sub offices in the Southland, in the Eastern region, Southeast region, and so on, and scatter the people around. Now, check how unfair it is, eh? If I'm living, for me to separate, I have to get a car. I have to buy a car. I have to maintain that vehicle to get into Port of Spain every day. The people who live in North, Diego Martin, and East West Corridor, St. Joseph's, and they hop on the priority bus route and they get to the workplace before you at a fraction of the cost. You understand? And this is
Yeah.
what bugs me, and I've been saying this thing all along, that the people in the north don't have to go through what people in the south goes through. When you have to maintain a car, gas, tires, upkeep, new car, mortgage on it, that is just to get to work. There's no production out of that.
Exactly. That was my next point. Lost
But the
productivity.
bottom
What
line
about the
is,
Not,
cost for that?
you cannot wave a magic wand at this stage.
no, it's not at this stage, Gary. This didn't happen now. It had been happening all along. I agree
Yeah,
with it. It didn't happen.
as our government takes forward, we only a few months there. Dr. March, for some reason, I'm getting a feedback on your device. I don't know what's causing it. Let me just see here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see when I take him out, he's not there. So something is wrong with his device. Yes. So um, we're a few months in government. When we take office, there's a lot of destruction to the things that was previously put in place. So we have a lot of reorganizing, restructuring to do. And it's
Big
much
time.
harder than if we had just continued from 2010 to 2015 period. We would have been much easier for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have to fix everything back from zero, man.
Yeah.
Every
But
single
Gary,
thing.
but Gary, if it's one thing, you see this center of the epicenter of the island there, right? Those people are isolated and we had a resident from that community, and she spoke about the horror stories there, right? And I think we need to do them a justice and link them to the rest of Trinidad and Tobago, right? Let's take, for example, a medical emergency, right? Those little people, those small towns are more or less living in a bubble there, right? And all they
You
have
take it
to the
hours to
rest of
get from
Trinidad.
any part of the country from that part of the country there. Because if you have to go to Port of Spain, it's 3 4 hours. You have to get ready. You have to get up, leave home what 3 4 o'clock in the
So,
morning. At this
so they
three,
won't be able
But
to hold on a job in Port of Spain.
no,
yeah,
that is
good job. I'm just saying if you have to go and take care of any business. But so I mean, we do need to build infrastructure, and this is what I'm talking about: the multi-purpose governmental business buildings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One was for Central here, but one has to be built in the Sandy Grande area. We need something around this area here also.
you
The
could
Mayaso,
do you do
yeah,
that
the
by
Otay
population size, Gary, by population and the amount of people requiring services. For example, okay, Hora Devi Pinal, I have a hospital. Tobago has two with only 60,000 people. The Pinal Devi exceeds that population by Tobago's population by 3 times, and not a single hospital there. Tell me, how can it be equitable? So you see, we have to do development based on data, and the data is the core which we do not use. We do not know the amount of people traversing the highway, let's say from the creek right into Port of Spain. We do not know the amount of people. So if you don't have the data, people who are planning, doing the governmental planning,
you don't
like
have, maybe you don't have the data documented, but the physical evidence is there in your face every day, seeing the
yes,
chaos.
Yeah,
yes,
Uh,
yeah.
but you
you
see,
know,
these guys have escorted 9 out of 10 times. They zoom past on the highway, and you tend to feel pissed off. And me too. That's the luxury for them, but we have to suffer the pain with our gas bill. The horror of trying to cut on time. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make, the government
But
they have to
Suman,
identify.
if I can make two suggestions, right?
So they
Are we really having the best use of technology in terms of productivity?
not even 10%.
Right.
Not even
So
ten
why
percent.
don't we look at that, and therefore the presence are actually on the job at the offices, we could cut that down, right?
That
So
is
we
what
need
I'm
to we
saying.
need to
That's
we
what I'm
need to look
saying.
at that very instead of designing more roads and so on. I'm not saying no. Go ahead and design roads once it's feasible and there's some economic justification for it, because at the end of the day you have to pay back loans. Jump high,
Hmm.
jump low. You have to pay back loans.
Hmm.
So what can be done with regards to technology to ensure productivity but not attendance, physical attendance? That's one.
Yes.
Secondly, why don't we have 4 day work week? 4 day work week. You have 5 days working, so somebody will always be on the job, but not 100% every day. Not 100%. So you could take away effectively 20% of
20%.
the traffic of civil servants.
Yes. Now,
the,
the
the,
same
the,
So I'm
thing.
saying there are
the
other
working,
creative
we
ways
have
to
to expand on
consider.
the working remotely. We have to expand that technology and don't bring people who can work remotely out of office. I mean, into the office area, especially if
Yeah,
they're
but
working in the forestry area.
then let's say I'm here, right? I'm in Faisabad. And why can't we have the same multi-purpose? Just a shell. All I need is a shell. And I have people from education, people from finance, people from agriculture, people from national security. You go into that center there and you log into your head office and you walk out of that location. Similarly, you do it after Ray Claro, after Davy, after Maruga, after
Or you
Seafield.
work from home.
Well,
Not a
there is a lot of things about working from home. They say that all
Well,
the people don't
y-
work and this and
no,
that.
what you could do, you could have a
No,
hybrid
no, no,
schedule,
no,
right?
no.
You work three
You think
Yes,
about
days
it,
from
the
home,
more
2 days in
people
the
that you could
office.
take off the road, right? the more people you could take off the road. First of all, you're saving pollution time, and the person who is not traveling, it could spend more time doing their job and working a more effective way, because you don't
Yeah,
deal with that hassle of the traffic, right? Number one. So we eliminated the traffic, we eliminated the pollution, we eliminate the cost of real estate there.
big
And
time. But you know, after last year, you could have worked at home. They said you can't. But this year, you could not. My
well,
nephew used to work 2 days out of
well,
home.
in America here, the current president wants to push that out because he is
Correct, correct.
a little not informed of how that it works effectively, because
Right.
he's more
Even,
how to say, in a dinosaur stage
yeah.
of mind,
But
but not
even private companies to the demanding that you come to work now. But anyway, what I'm saying is, if you have a regional office in Siparia, one is Point Fortin. So what I'm working, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, I can go in there and work out of that office. And because I'm hooked onto the central database of the ministries.
Mhm.
Let's say I'm in education, I'm hooked on the Ministry of Education database, and I do my work out of there. It's much, much closer for me. It spreads the thing around. And all you need are shells. Shells.
talking about
And
satellite
Yeah,
offices,
but Saman, I think that's a brilliant idea. But a very big advantage is that you have your civil servant colleague right next door, right
correct,
next door.
correct.
So if one ministry, you have to talk to the other ministries right
It's
there.
right,
You meet over
right
lunch
there.
and you discuss
Correct,
something.
correct.
I'll
You
tell you,
won't
I'll tell you my
need
experience, my experience. When I joined Citibank in Port of Spain, all the offices were so close. They're all the cubicles and everybody right there. You can
Mhm,
shout at a, at a colleague and get things done.
correct.
Then we built a new office. We built a new office around Port of Spain, and the offices were separated a lot further, and the whole culture changed.
Yes,
Now
I
the
know.
boss, first time I saw suspenders in motion. The guy, because he went into this new building, he put on suspenders. So so what the point I'm making is your physical environment changes culture,
And
changes culture.
you're talking about how technology, how we can use it. We're not even scratching the surface of technology.
Right. So why don't we say let's optimize that and see where we go and what kind of efficiency we could bring about. We are using 20,000 uh, tw- uh, 20,000 barrels of gasoline per day. 20,000 multiply by 100 US dollars. That's about the cost, right? And if we can reduce that, don't you see how much foreign exchange we could save? We could have that for export. So we
But
have to have a thorough economic analysis of all the ideas and then make a decision based on that.
definitely, definitely wait. But
But let me make a last point. A last point. 70% of those employed in Tobago are employed by THA. Tell me
yes,
which other country in the world, perhaps except Kuwait or Saudi Arabia and so on, which
no,
other country in the world that the
no,
government employs so many of the working population?
yes. I know. I had that problem in Tobago, and I was the economist in Tobago, and I identified that problem. And you know what I was told by the political organization there is that if we do not employ these people, they will not be employed. They will remain unemployable. So
Well,
you employing people based on so-called need, not of doing anything. That's
yeah,
how the productivity level is so poor
right. So the
over there.
question, Saman, where is the funding coming from?
The central
Because when they
government,
worked out, when they worked out the revenues for Tobago Houses of Assembly was only about 300 million, only
yes, that is
300 million, but their expenditure is more than 4 billion TT dollars. So
correct,
who's subsidizing that?
correct.
You and me, we subsidizing it.
I, the you know, as
Be
an
subsidizing
economist,
it.
I see a lot of things that needs changing, and I really hope that we get another 5 years and start to put things in place. I It will be breaking history, as we say, because no party has ever gone for more than made a double,
Yeah.
other than the PNM. No other party ever after since 1960 to now, that's close to 85 years. No party has gone made a double.
No,
So,
PNM just did. PNM just did.
other than PNM, sorry, any
Yeah,
part,
with
no party other
20.
than
Yeah.
PNM had made a double. Even when they lost 1986 33-3, PNM only got 3 seats. Yet come in 1991 and they came back into power again.
Mhm.
So you
Well,
see,
Pandey made a double, but he didn't finish the
yeah,
term.
yeah,
But those
he
three
made
guys just,
he,
you
he made
know,
he made 6 years.
he made 6 years. So, so
Yeah. But
he need,
in all due respect, seriously, the government has good plans, and that's what it is, plans. As if they're going to take or if this Causeway initiative is not in part of their 128 projects, we will have a fighting time to try to sell this to them, even though it makes economic sense. Because they already identified what are they going to do. That is the revitalization plan. They're not open to new ideas again. This is like, this is it. The most they might take one or two bits here and there, but they have clearly mapped out development for Trinidad and Tobago. You see? And this is the scary part. As did any one of us know that there was going to be a revitalization plan so that we could have gotten our inputs into it? So Gary, you and Ken would have said, okay, instead of doing this part of your research, why not do the causeway instead as an alternative option? No,
No,
that
no, no,
was
no,
not
no.
done.
I think you have the wrong concept there, Suman.
No, Gary, that is quite true.
My,
I was never consulted. No, there was no consultation.
not after government, but what I'm saying to you is we were asked to pool ideas, and in fact, a lot of things recommended, I see it in that video there. So I don't feel sidelined or anything like that. I mean, so I mean,
Well, I feel very
what
sad.
like I said,
I
I
mean,
reminded the prime minister, and I submitted this design that Ken did. So there is time for it to be included, absorbing the system. It has been well distributed, so I mean, I don't see no reason why it can't be. So I would not jump the gun and make any conclusion
no, I'm not
until
talking about the manifestos and them. I'm talking about this
no.
revitalization.
Okay, so what I'm saying to you is you made a manifestos, but I gave direct information of what I thought should have been done. And I had several reminders. And in fact, when I saw the video, I reminded the Prime Minister again about what we had recommended. And this is when I sent her the design, because Neil was already expecting us to send him the design. So
Mhm.
I told her that I said I would send it to you when I get it ready, right? So this is what I did. So what is done with it? Like I said, we could make a recommendation. We in no power, we no
Yeah,
authority to enforce anything. So there's no need to get uneasy about anything. We're making a
no,
recommendation,
I'm not.
whether it's absorbed, all well and good, but we are making a
Yeah,
recommendation.
once it's always the betterment of the, I'm happy with that. But what I'm saying, you have to get buy-in at certain points in time. You have to get buy-in from the
Well, we
various
also have to
lines.
give the government and the prime minister some time. I mean, our ideas have been taken into consideration.
yeah.
They will decide. The minister of works will decide how it fits in. Where they could fit what in, what part they will take and what part they won't take. And we have our civil engineer at hand here to make any adjustments.
Correct.
Okay,
And
guys, it's
again,
past.
we could expand on what we're proposing. It's not set in
Well,
Mhm.
stone.
thank you,
Right?
Veda. I know we hold you up quite a bit.
Yeah,
We
No, you
have,
yeah. Well,
we'll be in touch with any kind of economic discussion
no,
comes up.
that's fine. We'll chat again.
Yeah.
You may have heard that I'm on the board of the National Investment Fund.
Oh no, I
So
didn't hear
after,
about that. I didn't hear
yes,
about
so yeah, they put me on the board. So I have to prepare for a board meeting tomorrow.
that. Oh,
Um,
congratulations! At least you
yeah.
got me
Congratulations,
confident.
Vince.
That's
So
nice, man.
the next, Suman, you, well,
Don't say, don't say, don't
yeah,
say.
it's very. Let me ask you. It's very hard to get people to talk, intelligently on finance.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You
See,
manage treasury, right?
yeah,
Let me.
I was a financial controller 12 years in Miami Beach. So,
So let me tickle your brains as well. You ever see a fund where they borrow long term? They borrow long term, right?
uh-huh.
A bond, 10-year bond, fixed rate. So that's on the liability side, right?
Right, correct.
And you invest in equities,
Mm-hmm.
market equities, any share, FCB, Republic, whatever share,
Right.
and those shares now are assigned to the bonds, right?
Uh,
So it means to say you have to hold those shares for the 10 years.
10 years. Yeah.
What risk is that company exposed to?
Serious risk, man. Serious risk.
Let me
You
Serious.
guys
tell
might
you.
want to talk about some
Let
of the
me
funds.
tell
I'm
you.
not sure you want
Think
to.
about it. I want to call you on it because I already expressed concern. And
Serious.
this whole model, this whole business model designed by Jerry Hospitalis. Jerry
Oh,
knows
yeah.
nothing about treasury.
Yeah, I work with this guy. Oh, my God,
Oh
man.
Lord. He knows nothing about treasury. Nothing,
He
nothing.
could talk his crap. He talks crap out of his nose, like he knows everything, but he knows nothing. Seriously.
So so I have to go now and research Black-Scholes model and look out for these kind of
Yeah,
value
yeah.
at risk, VAR.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
these things. So I need to explain all of that to the government. I don't have a problem with it. All I have to explain to the board and to the management and to government, I said these are the risks that we're
Risk
exposed to. So, we could make a decision and rock back and sleep for 10 years. And as Pandey says, wake me up after it's over. That's 10 years we wake up and see where this share price is.
Is
Oh,
that
Lord.
National Investment Fund?
Yeah, yeah.
That includes FCB in there? So,
No, they want to put FCB in there.
oh, okay.
So we already have about four TGU,
Yeah,
which is then we have Republic Bank. We
Republic
have
Holdings. Republic Holdings or
Republic
Republic.
Holdings, yeah, Republic Holdings,
Because they
and then
own a lot of Clico assets. Huh?
well, it was the Clico assets they put into the fund.
Okay.
But you ever came across a fund like this? That's the
No,
question.
this was something about 2 or 3 years they set up.
Not this fund in America. They have any fund like this? Raise money,
No,
long-term bonds, and invest in equity.
invest in equity in your own bond. Now that is high risk, very very high risk. Should something happen, let's say, how are you going to repay your bondholders and so on?
Exactly.
You
Well,
know,
the only thing is that it's an unwritten kind of guaranteed by the government. In the end,
yeah,
government
but
will.
that's what
Yeah,
it
but
is about. Yeah,
but that's not on
no,
the books. No government guarantee on the book.
it's a word of mouth.
Yeah, kind of. Okay, well, I tickle your brains a little bit. Which,
Yeah,
No,
yeah. You guys
no,
discuss it off here.
no.
Yeah,
okay, guys.
yeah.
Take
Take
care,
care
man.
and good night.
Right.
Good
All right,
night,
Vin.
Good
Ken.
night, everybody. All
Ken,
right.
Take care,
listen,
Vin.
Ken. If you could put a road quickly to my arrow, I glad. And let me tell you where the
Well,
market is. Let me tell you where the market is. All those birds that fly to Miami who don't have funds again, like before, they're glad for places in Trinidad to go. And that is
And
the market.
you
And
open some nice golf course and so on.
put a
Nice.
toll on the road. Put a toll on the road.
Correct. Now we
Put
talking.
That
a
makes
toll.
sense. That makes sense.
because the amount of time and money and gasoline people are going to save, I prefer pay on that road and I go straight down.
And you're on the
And less
right
headache.
side.
Right?
Go
So
right.
Headache and
so
stress.
we could work out how much time somebody will save, how much gas they'll save, and look, guys, that is the alternative. Because when you're putting a toll on a road, there must always be an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I
Definitely.
think that project could start quickly. I don't know what's your, but it's a good idea. I didn't think about it, but it's a good idea. You said from about Central, where in Central to turn right if you're
Well, we're
going
looking
north.
at Londonville, coming out of Londonville there.
No,
We could pick up
let's
Todd
say
Road.
those
Todd,
no,
existing
but
Todd
roads.
Road.
no, but you still have to pass through all that traffic with
Well,
Chabonas and
well, no, it creates a belt.
Montreal.
I have a belt design around the whole place there, right?
right. So
So it's like a sort of
that will
beltway. You
take
connect to a
you
beltway
that that will take you Manzanilla, and how long it will take from west to east?
from west to east.
Yeah,
Half an hour.
That should only be around 25 minutes from west to east,
25,
from
right?
central
And
to
then
Manzanilla.
from that point to Mayaro, how long that will take?
If you have a good road, that should only be 20 minutes.
Okay, so about 45 minutes. That's not bad. That's not
No,
bad at all.
but remember, the government plan is to build a competing highway from Sando to Mayaro.
Yes, that's the other route.
So
But you know,
we'll have two highways traversing east and west to east.
right. So that
So,
listen, if you just start off one and get it
Yeah.
done within a 2-year period, and put the toll, make it an economic return to government, so because they'll have to pay loans and let that happen. And a lot of that will be local currency.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can get the load, all the aggregate. I see they're going to import aggregate. What is that, Ken? In the
Well,
budget?
probably what we have doesn't meet the current CBR, California Bearing Ratio and stuff. Yes, these materials are specced out, right? And that is probably one of the reasons why they're sourcing or importing certain
You
type of
see,
aggregates
Why
for the
did
sheer
they ever
strength.
think about spell, which is um, the la- the material from Tobago, the blue metal,
Um,
you see
because
what
that is one of the best
best
material
methods,
you
yeah.
can get. Huh?
okay.
No, yeah,
So
but
then,
Sumant,
Mhm.
all these decisions, you have to work out what's the impact on the foreign exchange. You cannot
Yes,
ignore that.
but
Cannot ignore that.
The Prime
yeah, yeah.
Minister, when she went down last week, finally gave TTH they got the license to operate now to
So
export.
fantastic. So
Yeah,
even if it's a little more expensive, we're
it's
going to save
let
on
me tell
foreign exchange, and it's more
you,
expensive because our TT dollars is overvalued. That is the biggest currency wars is the biggest problem in the world today. Currency
yes,
wars.
yes. But I've
Okay,
used
guys.
that material and it's
All right, Wayne.
super hard.
Yes, Tobago material, wonderful, and that green stone is so attractive.
It's
Yeah,
blue
once
metal.
it's tested
Blue
and it
metal.
meets the
Yeah.
CBR and the specs, then we could
Mhm.
definitely use it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because,
Good night,
uh,
All right,
everyone.
Wayne. Have a good
take
night.
care, man. Have a good
Take
one.
care.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, Gary. Good night. Have a good night, guys. Take
All
care.
right. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Nice man.
So here's an office announcement from our MP for Chaguanas West, Dr. Neil Gosine, and his office hours tomorrow, December 3rd.
Gary, I want to ask you something. The
All
last
right. Let's come off here.
Yeah, trying to come out. Why